Welcome back to this video series where we are covering every Forza Horizon to find out what makes each game the best in the series. Having now made videos on Horizons 1, 2, and 3, that means we've covered every game that's been delisted from official stores. It's finally time to cover a game that you can still purchase today, Forza Horizon 4. This is still over 5 years old at this point though, which with how fast the gaming world moves these days, practically classifies it as retro. Let's see if this relic still holds up and dive in to Great Britain. Now, I think that the biggest standout feature of Horizon 4, the one thing that always comes to my mind first when I think about the game, is the seasons. This was a really cool addition to the series, but didn't come without at least some controversy. Let's start this video off by talking about Horizon 4's big shakeup to the open world format. Before this time, racing game open worlds were evergreen and never changing. Sure, we got the rare map expansion with games like Burnout, but generally speaking, racing game worlds didn't change over time. Horizon 4's world, though, was actually 4 different variations of one map that changed week to week, meaning that there was always something different around the corner. Honestly, this was such a brilliant idea that helped the map feel much more realistic and alive, and helped it to not get stale as quickly, because all of your playtime could kind of be split into quarters across each of the 4 seasons. And these 4 map variants were pretty visually distinct, with spring bringing lots of green to the color palette, alongside a ton of rain, summer bringing sunny days and vibrant foliage across many of Great Britain's hills and fields, autumn turning everything to warmer oranges and browns, with leaves all over the road that you could kick up with your tires, and of course winter, which blanketed the entire map in snow. And this is where that controversy comes in. These seasons were synced for everyone across the game, which meant that you had no choice about what season you wanted to play in. And a lot of people didn't want to play in winter. I mean, I get it. The roads are super slippery, and most people like to experience the open world in fast road cars that don't do so well in snow. It also means that you're at a major disadvantage on most VR stunts. Roads for speed or drift zones were covered in ice and snow, so it was harder to get those 3 stars, and basically impossible to keep climbing the leaderboards. Really, any good time was set in the warmer, drier months. Now, obviously not everyone hated winter, and it had some really cool upsides, like freezing over the entire lake, which meant you could drive across it. That said, the popular opinion in Horizon 4's lifetime was that winter was kinda lame, and it took some time, and a new game, for people to come around and appreciate what we used to have. And hey, personally, I was always an avid winter enjoyer myself. I really think it was one of the best defining features of Horizon 4. Now there's another very important element to Horizon 4's seasons that took off like wildfire and is a staple of the series now. I am, of course, talking about the festival playlist. This did exist in a very rudimentary sense in Forza Horizon 3, but Horizon 4 completely reinvented the wheel here and created weekly content playlists synced with the seasons that people could complete in order to earn rewards like exclusive cars. Yes, the festival playlist that we all know and love now began right here towards the start of Horizon 4. But we weren't working for points back then. This was all about percentages, and early on, you had to get 100% completion for a full month in order to get the highest rewards. That was quickly dropped down to 80% though, after some public feedback. Now listen, I know these days, a lot of players are kind of sick of this system in Horizon 5, and it's been around now for something like 5-6 years without many changes. I definitely understand why people might feel a bit jaded about it currently, but back then when this was new, it was incredible. This was just yet another thing that hadn't really been done in many racing games before. Playground was instead taking more and more features that you would commonly see in MMOs, and then giving them a Horizon spin. So this system, along with the open world season changes themselves, meant that Horizon 4 was a game that was always worth coming back to, and that was fairly rare in the arcade racing world. Now, I am going to bring up the 4 words that strike fear into every gamer's hearts these days: games as a service. More and more, this is being viewed as a pretty negative term, but I also do think it can be done right, and I think Horizon 4 is absolutely one of those examples. While Horizons 1, 2, and 3 did have a few updates, smaller car DLCs and expansions, it wasn't until Horizon 4 that we got monthly big content drops. I want to be clear that this was essentially a finished game right away, and it just kept getting better. We will, of course, cover many of the specific features added over time later in the video, but I just wanted to point this out here because I do think the addition of monthly content patches was yet another great feature of Horizon 4 that kept players interested in the game for years. And I think this is the game where Horizon's community, as we know it now, really started to form. It was certainly there in Horizon 3, I've talked about it in previous videos, but FH4 also facilitated social gameplay so incredibly well, and that allowed some amazing communities to crop up. This game had a seamless online open world, ranked and unranked PvP racing, custom adventures, selectable teams within convoys, Forzathon live events, and a big handful of other incredible social gameplay features. Let's keep it in the open world for now and talk about those Forzathon live events, which are truly some of my favorite things in all of Horizon. These would appear somewhere on the map every hour on the hour, and your only goal was to group up and complete 3 PR stunts in a row in order to get Forzathon points. Sure, we do have something similar in Horizon 5, but let me tell you, it was better back then. Because these only appeared in one location once an hour, and Forzathon points were a fairly valuable currency, these almost always filled up, even years into the game's life cycle. Pre-event meetups were very common, and many players, including myself, would even go so far as to create specific builds and liveries just to complete these challenges. It was a really fun little microcosm of Horizon 4's culture that we just don't see in any other game in the series. But of course, any good online racing game these days has to have PvP, and Horizon 4 also did this better than any of the others. This was really the only game where player versus player competition was a major focus of the experience. Horizon 4's Ranked Online had an ELO skill system that would put you in races with other players of a similar skill level, and whenever there's a ranking in PvP, players want to climb that rank. So throughout each season, you could increase your league level, which started at the bottom at 20 and ended at Grandmaster, right above rank 1. Then at the end of each PvP season, you would get rewards based on the highest rank you achieved. This was a great system that encouraged players to improve their driving skills. But even though this video series is all about focusing on the best of the Horizon games, it's also important to make sure we don't get too stuck in nostalgia. And it would be irresponsible to say that online racing in FH4 was perfect. In reality, only a pretty small portion of the player base actually competed in ranked racing, especially once the initial wave of players died down. It wasn't maintained or balanced super well, and the anti-griefing measures, while there, weren't as effective as they could have been. But that's okay, because it was still there for people who wanted it, and Horizon 4 had so many other amazing multiplayer features. But let's move away from the online features now to focus more on some single-player stuff, starting with Horizon 4's businesses. These were stories that had lasting impacts on your game, because the more you progressed through that story, which was always focused around running a car-themed business, the more passive income you made. every single day you logged in. And if you maxed out all the businesses, you could easily make a few 100,000 credits. Horizon 4 also added houses. Before this, we were always stuck setting up a cot in the corner of the festival garage, or at least that's my headcanon. But now we could have everything from small cottages in the woods to massive famous castles in the city. Horizon 4's houses added some great backdrops and customization to the player experience. Logging into your chosen house was just another fun way to pull you into the game. Now, as part of Horizon 4's post-launch feature updates, we also got some really neat progression and reward mechanics, like star cards and the backstage pass. For star cards, I think part of what made this feature so special was the fact that its ultimate reward was the Forza Edition Ford Capri, one of the rarest and most highly sought after cars in the entire game. Completing the star cards to get it was no easy task, but the reward felt worth it. I love this design in gaming. Big challenges for big rewards. The community went nuts when they found out that there was a real solid path to getting the Ford Capri FE. And Horizon 4's Backstage Pass? Well, this is easily one of the top 3 features I want to see back in Horizon 5. This was a system that gave players a permanent method for earning a ton of rare seasonal cars. Every week, you could vote in an in-game poll between 2 cars that would potentially get added to the backstage. And then you could at any point use backstage passes to purchase a car from that list. And these passes were given out by doing seasonals. They often came as replacements for cars in weekly percentage rewards, so there was always a steady flow of passes to acquire. This was such a fantastic idea to improve the game overall by helping players get cars they wanted but might have missed out on, while still keeping them somewhat rare and valuable. And I'm still holding out hope that maybe we get this in Horizon 5 towards the end of its life, because there are so many cars in that game that you just can't get anywhere else. So the Backstage Pass is definitely one of Horizon 4's best features that I wish we had now. But I want to flip the script here and talk about one of Horizon 4's best features that actually got way better in Horizon 5, the precursor to the event lab, Horizon 4's Blueprint Builder. Now, Horizon 4 was actually the first game in the series to launch with a route creator at all, which was already a big new feature. Instead of being stuck with the layouts Playground made for us, we could finally build our own tracks within the map. And this alone was great, but as a sort of last hurrah for the game, late in its life, clearly as sort of a test bed for Horizon 5, we also got custom prop placement tools. It was definitely much more simple than what we have now. There weren't any custom rules, and the prop selection was limited, but this was still groundbreaking for the series, and was a huge jolt of life into a game that was definitely starting to slow down. The builder was bundled in with Super 7 as well, where the goal was to create and compete in pretty short challenges in order to get rewards. And this is where we really saw that Horizon was transitioning from just a racing game to a car sandbox, where people could choose the gameplay they wanted. Which, sure, some people might see as a move in the wrong direction, and I promise I get that take. But ultimately, I do feel like these fun arcadey game modes like Super 7 and the Eliminator, which we also got for the first time in Horizon 4, absolutely have a place in Horizon and make the game better for a bigger audience. If you look at BeamNG, for example, that game is a pretty impressive simulator and can be treated as such, but you can also just be super goofy with it and build wacky jumps or obstacle courses. There's kind of room for both, and we started to see a lot of that same mentality in Horizon 4. It was a game that could cater to gearheads that wanted a semi-realistic experience, as well as casual gamers just looking to goof off and have some fun, even if it wasn't that realistic. Now, before we wrap up this video, I have to address this. We talked a lot about the soundtrack in the Horizon 1 video, and brought it up for Horizon 2 as well. And when it came time for me to write the Horizon 3 script, I sat down and thought, you know, dang it. This game has a really good soundtrack too, but I can't just keep saying that every game had the best soundtrack. I mean, that makes it kind of pointless commentary. But the problem is, music is what sets the tone for these games so well, and it's often what we remember the best about our time playing. There are so many songs that I will hear on a random non-Forza playlist that instantly make me think, oh hey, that's a Horizon song, and then my mind is flooded with memories from the game. There is music from Horizon that was literally on my wedding playlist, like Sunrise and A Moment Apart played at my reception. So it would just be weird to not keep bringing attention to these fantastic soundtracks. And yeah, I really should have talked about it in the Horizon 3 video, but to make up for that, I just need to say that all of the soundtracks up to this point have had some incredible songs. Horizon always absolutely nails it with their menu music too, and hearing Odeza's A Moment Apart while watching a McLaren Senna transition through the seasons in Great Britain, it's just such a perfect encapsulation of what Horizon 4 was. Forza Horizon 4's destination may have been a more comfortable and quaint choice compared to the likes of Southern Europe or Australia, but the soundtrack, the seasons, multiplayer and social features, player houses, and regular content updates for years after release made this game a home for so many people, and that is why Horizon 4 is the best game in the series. And with that, folks, you know what time it is. We've got to close the books on Great Britain and its incredible landmarks, varied seasons, and social features that I really want back, and set our sights on Mexico. Thank you everyone for watching the 4th video in this series. Definitely go check out the videos on Horizons 1 through 3 if you haven't seen them yet. And as always, I end these videos by asking for your opinions on this game. If Horizon 4 is actually your favorite, then I want to know why, especially if it's for a reason that I didn't talk about in this video. And if you missed the game or didn't love it as much as the others, I want to know your reasons for that as well. Whatever your thoughts are, I want to hear them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.